Waiting for Rossinha to come on the overlap, encouraging Boyd to continue that run. Only Graham in the middle, Aluko's on the edge! Oh, that is magnificent! It's a first ever Premier League goal for Sonny Aluko.
Hello and welcome to another episode of our football flashback series, looking back at the 2010s for Hull City. We're up to the 2013-2014 season, which of course was our first season back in the Premier League under Steve Bruce. And with me to reminisce about that season, the first half of that season, I have Mitch. How are you?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. Excited to talk about this season. This was the season that I actually got over to England and watched a chunk of the season. So I've got very fond memories of this season, and of course, back in the Premier League, it's pretty fond memories as well. So we'll get straight into things. Usually, the way we start these, I'll talk about the shirt that I'm wearing, which was from that season, and we did just hear a bit of audio there from Sonny Aluko scoring an absolute screamer of a winner against Newcastle. So very fortuitous that I actually did have a Sonny Aluko away shirt from that season, which I'd bought prior to the season starting. So very fortuitous. I think it was just the fact it was the away shirt was released first, and we're back in the Premier League and wanted to get a shirt with the Premier League badge on it. But did you? I mean, we were talking before about your shirts, and did you end up getting a shirt from the season? And if so, when did you get it?
I did. I don't remember when I got it, but I won a signed shirt through some Barclays competition. It's currently framed in my garage, so I can't show you, but
yeah,
I don't have one that I can physically wear, no.
Nice one. Okay, well, what I'll do now, I'll bring up our little slide deck. We've got a couple of pictures and stuff as we talk through this. But I just wanted to start off talking about the season as a whole, going into that season. And I want you to cast your mind back, because I remember that first game of the season against Chelsea and just thinking, I mean, I can't remember who was in the Chelsea lineup. It was like De Bruyne, and Lukaku might have come on late in that game, and Hazard was playing, and Lampard, all those legends of Chelsea. And I just remember first, 5-10 minutes of the game thinking, oofed, back in the Premier League, this is it. I think we gave away a penalty after like 5 minutes. McGregor punched Lampard in the face or something like that, and then saved the penalty. But it was certainly sort of a pretty intense welcome back to the Premier League. Do you have many memories of that first game back in the Premier League?
Pretty much the same feelings. I was just excited pretty much to be back. And yeah, it was pretty harsh from what I remember, because I don't think for a lot of that first half particularly as well that we were really much in the game. And I didn't realize at the time, but I realized watching highlights only a few years ago, like that Kevin De Bruyne was playing and that he set up that first goal, which was wild to think about.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I can't remember if that was the season. I mean, Salah might have been there as well on the bench as well. So they had quite a few pretty big Premier League players running through that squad. And a few pretty big Premier League players of our own. We had Huddleston and Livermore, I think, on the bench to start with in that game. Like you said, we weren't up to much in that first half. And then I think they came on second half. And that's when we really sort of settled into it. And we thought, okay, we do have a bit of Premier League quality in this squad. But do you have much memory of, I mean, we'll talk a little bit later about the actual signings of some of these players. But I just remember the excitement when we went in to sign Huddleston and thinking, geez, this is a guy that was playing for Spurs, the previous season. I think he was involved in their preseason tour as well, and thinking, this is like a proper Premier League player coming to Hull. It was a pretty exciting moment.
Yeah, well, pretty much just everything you just said, that he's a proper Premier League player and a good Premier League player, not just some washed up kind of older bloke that is kind of on the decline. He was still very, very a big future, a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah, no, that's right. Well, yeah, talking about players now, well, let's move on and talk about some of the outgoings and then incomings. We'll start with the outgoings first of all. I mean, I guess probably the biggest regret I have that season was the fact that we let Tom Cairney go. And I think partly that was probably because when Bruce came in the previous season, I think Cairney got injured pretty early on in that season, might have been in like a League Cup game or something. So I just get the sense that Bruce probably didn't get the chance to watch him properly and didn't get the chance to rate him as much of a player as we did. And of course, I think he went to Blackburn first on loan and then permanently. And of course, ripping it up for Fulham now. Corey Evans went to Blackburn with him as well. And Jay Simpson went to, I've got it here. Is it Buriram United? I think it was in Thailand or somewhere like that. But probably the main three departures. I think Hobbs left as well that season. He went to Leicester on loan, I want to say, which at the time I remember thinking was a pretty big loss. And then we brought in Curtis Davies, which was a pretty decent replacement as well. But I guess of these three players, Kearney probably the highlight for you of departures.
Yeah, and I think just what he's gone on to do kind of proves that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like he's captaining Fulham, scoring goals for them to get them into the Premier League, that sort of thing is also a massive player for them. Corey Evans, I have a feeling, is he at Sunderland now? I think I saw him pop up in the League Cup final for them. So he's still sort of sticking around League One, Championship sort of level. So decent for him. I have no idea where Jay Simpson is these days, but there you go. And then, look, on the incomings, I mean, that summer, I just felt like a lot of the players that we brought in became such sort of household names for City over the next, 3-4 years. I mean, the players pictured here, we've got Tom Huddleston, Curtis Davies, Alan McGregor, but you think, I mean, Figueroa, not so much, but he was around for a couple of years. We got Boyd and Elmo in on permanent deals as well that summer. Sagbo joined. Steve Harper joined as well from Newcastle, but it was a pretty productive window. Livermore joining on loan as well. Not many misses. I think probably the only miss, to be honest, is probably Danny Graham joining on loan from Sunderland. But I think pretty much everyone else that we brought in did a pretty decent job for us.
Yeah, I think you could say that a lot of those players would be in like the top 10 players to ever wear a City shirt, particularly the few that are in the photo just there. Huge moments for us, especially that FA Cup run. Yeah. No, I remember, I feel like Davies might have been one of the first players that we were linked to straight after promotion. Like I remember maybe a couple of weeks after we were getting him from Birmingham on 500 grand or $1 million. I can't remember exactly what the fee was. And I, to be honest, hadn't really heard of him before. And I thought, okay, cool. We're getting a centre back in from the Championship. Yeah. Let's see how he does. Replacing Hobbs and whether he's going to be any good for us. And, you sort of touched on there the FA Cup run and, of course, scoring the second goal in the FA Cup final. You don't get many more iconic goals than that. Of course, probably Windass at Wembley's topped that and Diami at Wembley probably, but Davies scoring that second goal's right up there as well. Yeah, that celebration after he scored that goal, that will always be in my mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And McGregor as well. McGregor, I mean, I saw recently, I think he signed another deal to stay is he at Celtic? I always get them mixed up. I shouldn't get them mixed up. I'm sure they'd be pretty angry Celtic.
Oh, wait,
Rangers
no,
fans.
he's
at Rangers, isn't he? No, he's at Rangers. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to get, angry Celtic fans burn this podcast down. But yeah, no, he's at Rangers, of course. Because we got him from Besiktas, but he'd been at Rangers before they liquidated. But talking there about that Chelsea game, giving away the penalty after 5 minutes probably set the tone for his time at City. Bit fiery tempered, giving away a couple of penalties here and there, red cards here and there as well. But also an awesome record at saving penalties. I mean, he saved that penalty against Chelsea, and I think he saved quite a few that season as well.
Yeah, that's a memory I have of him. Just I forget, we were at a pub one night, you and I, and we conceded a penalty, and we were like, yeah, he's probably going to save it, and he did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sort of jumping ahead to the second half of the season now, I think it was, but there was the game against Crystal Palace, I think, where he ended up injuring himself quite badly, and Huddleston ended up in goal for us. Was quite a funny one. Oh, actually, he might not have injured himself. He might have just got a red card. Sounds more like him getting into a fight, but Huddleston going in goal in that game was a bit of a funny one, but it's very typical of McGregor. Cool. But, we sort of talked about the players there. And so now I just sort of wanted to cast our minds back to some of the iconic games from that first half of the season. So from that first Chelsea game all the way up to the Fulham game, 6-0 on Boxing Day was probably the last game of that first half of the season. There's a few games that really stand out in the memory. I guess for me, the first game of my trip over to England was the 3-1 against Liverpool, where this photo comes from David Myler. First ever competitive win against Liverpool. Is a pretty incredible result in that game. And then that 6-0 against Fulham as well probably stands out, as well as probably the two highlights of that first half of the season. But what stands out to you from that first half of the season?
Oh, yeah, definitely those two results that you said. Probably the Liverpool one more so, having literally never beaten them before and playing so well and just like no one expected us to win. We didn't expect us to win. And obviously, like, we've got a lot of Liverpool mates, and I'm sure you've got a lot, and it was just really good to just give it to them a little bit after that.
Yeah, my memory. I mean, I was traveling up on the train for that one. It was my first game up at the KC as it was at the time, and so it was the first time I'd been to Hull, and I sort of went around to the stadium, and it was just like an incredible experience. You know, sort of walking to the ground and having people all around you talking about the team and what the lineup's going to be, and it's such a surreal thing to be like, oh, there's actually other people here for City. And, you take your seat, and Livermore scored that deflected goal to put us up 1-0. Gerrard got the equaliser where you just thought, of course, he was going to score that free kick from that angle. And you think, oh, we've had our fun. We've taken the lead, but they're going to take control of the game now. And then I think it was Myler who scored the goal to go up 2-1. And then Huddleston got that deflected goal right at the end where you think, oh, is this the moment he's going to get the haircut? Which wasn't to be in the end because I think it went down as an own goal. But it's just an awesome game. It was just, as you said, you're kind of going into the game with absolutely no hope of a victory. I think Sterling missed the game for whatever reason, but Suarez was playing, Gerrard was playing. It was a pretty strong Liverpool side that I think I saw afterwards that, I mean, if they'd beaten us in that game, they probably would have won the title. Like, I think that's how close, because that was the season with the slip. And you think like how close that season was for them to getting the title. And I think we were basically the worst team that they lost to. So you sort of think in a way that, you could view it as, sort of we cost them the title that season. But
I often say that exact thing to my Liverpool friends, actually.
Yeah, no, exactly right. So I'm just having a look at some of the other results. I mean, of course, got to talk about that Newcastle game. We sort of touched on it before. To win 3-2 away at Newcastle as well, given the fact, I mean, look, we'd started the season pretty well. Like, we'd had a 1-0 win against Norwich. We'd had a 1-1 draw with Cardiff in between 2-0 losses to Chelsea and City, where you think, well, that's, sort of expected. But then to go away to a Newcastle side, which at the time, from memory, I think that was around the time that they were finishing like top half, top six almost, with like Cabaye and Ben Arthur, of course, and other players like that in top form. To go up there and score 3 goals, given the fact that we'd started the season sort of, scraping 1-0s and scoring 1 goal a game sort of thing, was a pretty awesome result.
Yeah, and especially as you previously mentioned, that Aluko goal and the way that went in, which is like unbelievable, so good.
Yeah, no, absolutely, so crazy. And I think from memory as well, like Brady, I can't remember if he scored the first or the second goal in that game, but he was just on fire to start that season. Yeah, he got the first goal in that game because I think he scored the penalty against Norwich, and then he went the next week after the Newcastle game and got the win against West Ham as well from a penalty. And he just started the season so well because I think my home kit from that season has Brady on the back as well. And I mean, it's sort of a shame the way his career's dropped off now. I think he's at Bournemouth or somewhere like that. But at that time, he was such a good player for us as well.
Yeah, I distinctly remember him scoring our first few goals, and I forget if he just dropped off or I think he might have got injured at some point.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, and then he just didn't really score again after that. But yeah, I just distinctly remember him being crucial in those first few games.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, looking at some of the other games that season as well, or that first half of the season, I'd completely forgotten that 1-0 win against Sunderland as well, where from memory, Bruce just stacked the team with all the ex-Sunderland players. He had like Elmo, Myler, everyone else starting as well. And that was the game. They got the 2 red cards, like in the 47th and 51st minute. So it's like, because I'm just looking at it. So the first half added time. So Cadamol got a red card at 45 minutes with 2 added, and then Jacena got a red card with 45 and 6 added. And I'm pretty sure that was the game where Poyet tried to fight Bruce on the sideline. I don't know if you remember that, but like it was the wildest game, and like the managers were trying to get into a fight as well. And I think we'd like got an own goal or something in the first few minutes, as in like they'd scored an own goal to put us 1-0 up. And then it was such a typical Bruce game because even with the 2 red cards, we were still basically parking the bus and just trying to hang on to the 1-0 lead. But it was, I think from memory at that time, that was when we were, just basically smashing Sunderland whenever we played them, and Bruce was quite enjoying it.
Yeah. There was a few years there where we just couldn't lose to Sunderland. But you bring that up. You bring up the red card game. I think there's another game where our opposition got a red card, and it was probably the most frustrating game I'd seen in a long time. Which
Yeah,
was
was that the
Palace
was it Palace
game.
game? Yeah, I was just having a look at that where we lost. That was the game before I went over there, and it was their first win of the season or something, and I was just like, oh geez, we're losing to them. Like I'm going over for 2 months to watch City play. I'm like, we're going to get just lots of games like this where we lose 1-0 to pretty terrible sides. But yeah, they got Balassi red card in the 78th, and then they scored about 3 minutes later. So not too great.
No.
And then, yeah, look, I mean, to round off that first half of the season, we'll finish things off talking about that Fulham game, that 6-0. I think the most remarkable thing about that 6-0 was it was 0-0 at halftime. And so it felt like it was a really even game. Like it was definitely a game where I think from memory, like we were on top and we probably deserved to be in front. And you think, oh, it's frustrating, it's 0-0, whatever. But no one could have foreseen what happened in that second half to go 6 goals past Stockdale of all people as well. You know, keeper we'd had the previous season, but pretty crazy game.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I remember, but post game, all everyone was talking about was Huddleston and how he should play for England, and that was like one of the best performances that anyone's ever seen in the City shirt because he was unbelievable. That second half was just like, because I think it was like near Christmas time too. I think.
Yeah, I think it was Boxing Day.
Yeah, just like, well, yeah, Merry Christmas.
Oh, actually, no, sorry, it was the 28th because that's right. Because Boxing Day was the United game where we were 2-0 up and then lost. Because I think Chester scored after 4 minutes against United, and then their third goal was that's right. It was a Chester own goal to give them the win. But that was the game. That was the David Moyes era. So it was like we're 2-0 up and we're all just chanting, "You're getting sacked in the morning" to David Moyes. Because that was just, that was when it was like sort of unheard of that United could be bad. And now it's just sort of the status quo. Yeah, exactly right. But yeah, no, that Fulham game, I mean, Huddleston getting the goal to sort of capped it off. But, you've got like everyone you'd want scoring a goal in that game because you got, I think Boyd scored, Fright scored, Corrin scored 2, Elmo scored. It was like basically if you could pick like 5 players in the side to score goals, you'd probably pick those 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty remarkable. And like, I guess because you were, I don't know what you were 17 at the time that season, 16, something like that.
Somewhere close, yeah, something like that.
But so that would have been probably one of the first like seasons of City that you can like properly. And I guess because you think the seasons before that we didn't actually get to watch all the games because they weren't televised. What was your sort of sense, or what's your memory looking back on that season and like your time following City and like how that, I don't know, boosted your love for City or connection or whatever?
Was this the year that I met you actually?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because it was the end of this season was the FA Cup final.
Yeah, I was 17 then. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
I think it's definitely split into 2 parts of the season, and we've kind of covered, just like loosely remembering, is definitely the Liverpool game and the Fulham game for the first half, and then I think we'll cover what happens in the second half.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we'll do a second half of this season probably in the next couple of weeks. Look, because we just wanted to do a few episodes of stuff while it's the off season, and 20 minutes from now we're going to have the fixture release, which would be awesome to see for the coming season. So it starts to feel a bit more real. But we did just want to put a bit of content out there in the meantime to sort of fill people's airwaves over the summer in England, winter here. But yeah, we'll certainly cover that second half of the season, which I think, as you say, I mean, the clear memories of that first half of the season, that Fulham game, the Liverpool game as well. But the second half of the season with that FA Cup run, I think is probably the biggest sort of memory of that season, I guess, which we'll certainly cover shortly. But it was a great season. I mean, that season, and especially the way we started it, I think was probably our most comfortable Premier League season. Like, obviously 08-09, we had an amazing start to the season. You think there's no chance we're going down. But this season, I think it felt a lot more consistent. There was no thrashings, and there was no sort of sense that we were really like, I struggle to remember it. I guess it's easy to think in hindsight, but I don't think there was that much fear of going down necessarily.
I mean, I'm sure it was a thought in our minds at some
points, yeah.
Yes, but yeah, as you say, we didn't get pumped. Like, we lost 2-0 to City and 2-0 to Chelsea. Like, that's like it's fine. Like, it's not a win, obviously, it's not great, but 2-0 is like not the end of the world.
Yeah, I'm just having a look. I mean, I think the only game where I started to get really worried was that 4-1 loss to Southampton, and that was that Southampton side. I think it was under Adkins. It might have been Pochettino at the time. I can't remember.
I think it was Poch, yeah.
Yeah, where they had like Lallana and stuff just like in beast mode and like
Is that the one where Lallana scored like that crazy solo goal against us?
Yeah, I think that was the one. And so they beat us 4-1. That was probably the only game where I thought, oh, this isn't good. Like we're going to struggle if this is the way we're going to play more often. But that was just about the only one. I mean, we lost 4-1 to Newcastle late in the season, but even by then, like we'd beaten Cardiff 4-0 the previous game. I'm sort of jumping ahead to the second half of the season here, but like there just didn't seem to be that many games where I thought, oh, we're really in trouble after that sort of loss. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, like you say, it's easy to say in hindsight. I'm sure there was some point in that season where we thought we need that win to stay up, but pretty fun season overall, and especially with some of those wins in that first half of the season.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for joining me for this one, Mitch. We'll certainly be back. I don't know, maybe next week, maybe a couple of weeks' time to do the second half of the season. As we said, I guess there's probably a fair bit to talk about there with the FA Cup run as well. So we'll be pretty good to chat that one as well.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for having me on again.
No worries. And thanks everyone for listening in. If this is your first episode of the Tigers Down Under that you've had to listen to, we've of course covered the whole of the previous season on podcasts. If you want something to fill your time with, there's plenty of episodes to go back and listen to. And we'll certainly be back in, 3-4 weeks to start previewing the new season as well. So look out for those when they hit the air. But until next time, like, subscribe, share the video around as you can. And we'll, I guess, chat to you later. But until then, come on, City.